McAlester, Oklahoma State Penitentiary had carried out executions for over a century, with mechanical precision, where protocol dictated every breath, every movement, every second of a condemned prisoner's final moments. Nathan Holloway was scheduled to die at exactly midnight for the brutal farmhouse slayings that had terrorized Comanche County. 15 years earlier, the victims' families watched through reinforced glass as Warden Daniels recited the standard procedural questions their faces, a mixture of grief and the hollow anticipation of closure that never truly comes. But when asked for his final words, Holloway didn't plead for mercy or proclaim innocence. Instead, he looked directly at Gerald Mercer, the veteran executioner who had performed this duty 37 times without hesitation, and began speaking in a low, steady voice, describing details of the crime scene that had never been released to the public, intimate specifics that made Mercer's hand freeze above the control panel. As the condemned man continued, his voice grew more insistent, more precise, naming dates, streets, conversations that only the actual killer could know. When Holloway finally fell silent, the execution chamber remained frozen in impossible attention as Mercer slowly removed his hand from the switch and turned to face the warden. His 20-year career and the state's entire justice system suddenly balanced on 5 words: "I cannot execute this man." The fluorescent lights of McAlester State Penitentiary cast a sterile glow across Gerald Mercer's workspace. 15 years as a corrections officer, 8 of those specifically managing execution protocols, had transformed the room into a testament of clinical precision. Each item on his desk was positioned with military exactitude: incident reports, stacked at perfect right angles, execution logs color-coded and chronologically arranged, a cup of black coffee cooling untouched. Gerald's hands, weathered from years of carrying the weight of state-mandated finality, moved with practiced efficiency as he reviewed the upcoming execution file. Nathan Holloway, inmate, Mugger 48629, scheduled for lethal injection at midnight. The paperwork told a story of cold, systematic justice, conviction for first-degree murder, all appeals exhausted, gubernatorial review completed. He'd witnessed 37 executions, each one a mechanical process, each one following the same intricate dance of institutional procedure. Gerald didn't see faces anymore, just case numbers, just protocols. A photograph caught his eye, not from the current file, but a personal reminder tucked beneath his standard-issue clipboard. A younger version of himself in military fatigues, standing beside a unit that looked more like a family than a military team. Before the corrections facility, before becoming the man who watched lives end with professional detachment. The intercom crackled. "Execution prep meeting in 10, Mercer." Gerald's response was automatic. "Acknowledged." The conference room at McAlester wasn't designed for comfort. Concrete walls, minimal lighting, a large circular table where decisions about human life were reduced to bureaucratic language. Warden Daniels sat at the head, her posture reflecting decades of institutional authority. "Holloway case is straightforward," she began, sliding additional documentation across the table. "No last-minute appeals, no media circus this time." Gerald studied the documents. Conviction based on forensic evidence, fingerprints, DNA trace, eyewitness testimony. The kind of file that looked airtight from the outside. The kind of file that had defined his entire career. Detective Robert Malone, who had originally investigated the case, sat across from Gerald. Their history ran deep. Malone had been Gerald's mentor when he first transitioned from military police to corrections. "Any unusual requests from the inmate?" Malone asked, his voice carrying the weight of someone who had seen too much. Gerald flipped through the preliminary interview transcripts. Negative, standard final meal request, no special communications, but something caught his eye. A handwritten note in the margin of the interview transcript. Something about Nathan Holloway's statement didn't align perfectly. Not a discrepancy. Not yet. Just a subtle inconsistency that years of tactical training had taught Gerald to notice. The meeting concluded with standard procedural review, each person understanding their role in the evening's scheduled execution. Gerald would oversee the medical team, ensure proper restraints, confirm identity, monitor vital signs, pronounce time of death, another day, another protocol. As he returned to his office, Gerald's phone buzzed. A text from his sister Jennifer, a public defender who had long criticized his career choice. Thinking about tonight. Be careful, Gerald. He didn't respond. There was nothing to discuss. The execution chamber waited, a sterile room of white tiles and stainless steel. Gerald had designed its layout himself, ensuring maximum efficiency, minimum emotional engagement. Each piece of equipment meticulously maintained, each procedure documented, each human reduced to a series of quantifiable metrics. Outside, the Oklahoma night began to settle, casting long shadows across the prison walls. Another day concluding, another life preparing to end. Nathan Holloway would be his 38th execution. Gerald Mercer didn't know it yet, but this one would be different. The evening's preparation had begun. The file on Nathan Holloway told a story of calculated brutality. 15 years ago, the Comanche County farmhouse murders had shocked Oklahoma to its core. 3 generations of the Harrison family, grandparents, parents, and 2 children, found brutally executed. No signs of forced entry, no apparent motive. Beyond pure methodical violence, Gerald Mercer spread the original investigation documents across his desk, each page a clinical snapshot of human destruction. Forensic photographs captured a scene that had haunted local law enforcement for years. Blood spatter analysis, ballistic reports, trace evidence collection logs. Detective Robert Malone's original case file sat heavily between the more recent execution documents. Their shared history ran deep. Malone had been the lead investigator, Gerald the military police liaison who'd assisted in the initial investigation. The crime scene photographs told a story of precision, each victim positioned carefully. No random violence, no emotional outburst, something calculated, something deliberate. A handwritten note in the margin of the original report caught Gerald's attention, something he'd overlooked before. A small notation about shoe print evidence that seemed inconsistent. His phone buzzed. Malone, you reviewing the Holloway file? The detective's voice carried the weight of 15 years of unresolved tension. Affirmative, Gerald responded, his military training evident in every syllable. Anything standing out? Gerald hesitated, a fraction of a second. Negative. But the hesitation was enough. Malone would have caught it. The prisoner's background was sparse. Nathan Holloway, 42 years old, no military service, no significant criminal record prior to the murders, a carpenter by trade, married once, divorced, no children. Psychological. Evaluations from the trial painted a picture of clinical detachment. The court-appointed psychiatrist had described Holloway as methodical, controlled, emotionally removed. Sound familiar, Gerald thought. The execution preparation followed standard protocol. Final medical examination completed. Psychological evaluation confirmed. No last-minute appeals. No unexpected interventions. Just another execution. Gerald pulled out the original crime scene photographs again. Something nagged at the edge of his professional consciousness. A detail, a subtle inconsistency. The Harrison farmhouse had been immaculate, not just clean, organized with military-like precision, each room staged, each piece of furniture positioned at exact right angles, blood cleaned with surgical efficiency, not typical criminal behavior. His secure office phone rang. Warden Daniels, everything prepared for tonight. Her voice carried no emotion, just institutional efficiency. Affirmative. All protocols reviewed. No complications. Good. The call ended. Gerald studied the photographs again. The crime scene looked less like a murder and more like a tactical operation. Entry points, kill zones, precise movements. He'd seen similar scenes during his military police deployments, scenes where violence was a tool, not an emotional response, but a calculated action. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Jennifer, his sister, stood in the doorway, public defender, always questioning, always challenging institutional narratives. "You're thinking too hard about this one," she said. Gerald didn't respond. "Some executions aren't about closure," Jennifer continued. "They're about something deeper." She knew him too well. The clock. On the wall read 8:47 p.m., less than 4 hours until execution time. Nathan Holloway would become his 38th execution, just another protocol, just another night. But something felt different. Something felt wrong. The secured evidence archive at the Comanche County Sheriff's Department was a vault of forgotten histories. Rows of meticulously labeled boxes chronicled 15 years of investigative documentation surrounding the Harrison family murders. Gerald Mercer moved with practiced precision, his military-trained hands processing each file with methodical care. Detective Malone had arranged discreet access. No official paperwork, no digital trail, just two professionals trying to resolve a lingering inconsistency. Box 17B caught his attention. Supplemental evidence, marked confidential in bold red lettering. The seal had been broken recently, unusual for a closed case. Forensic reports told a clinical story. 3 victims, multiple gunshot wounds, precise entry angles, consistent with professional training, not random violence. Tactical execution. A tucked-away laboratory report revealed something curious. Trace DNA evidence, partial profile, incomplete, deliberately obscured. His sister Jennifer's words echoed. Some executions aren't about closure. Gerald's military background had taught him to recognize patterns, to see beyond the obvious. This crime scene was constructed, not discovered. A handwritten note fell from between 2 documents. Coordinates, GPS location. No additional context. His secure phone vibrated. "Malone, find anything?" The detective's voice carried professional tension. "Negative." Gerald's response was automatic, tactical. "Nothing significant." The lie hung between them. Both knew something was off. The coordinates matched a remote location 30 miles west of the original crime scene. Unpaved road, no residential structures, military training ground during the 1990s. Jennifer would call this a rabbit hole. Gerald called it professional diligence. 3 more hours until execution. Nathan Holloway sat in his cell, waiting, watching, preparing. The evidence archive's fluorescent lights flickered, a subtle reminder. Time was running out. Something wasn't adding up, and Gerald Mercer was going to find out what McAlester State Penitentiary's maximum security interview room existed in a state of clinical neutrality. White walls, reinforced glass, institutional, lighting that stripped away humanity, leaving only raw interaction. Nathan Holloway sat across from Gerald Mercer. 2 hours before the scheduled execution. No handcuffs, no restraints. An unusual concession granted by Warden Daniels. Something about Holloway's case defied standard protocol. Gerald studied the prisoner. Mid-40s. Lean, military posture despite never serving. Eyes that didn't move, didn't blink, calculated observation. "You requested this meeting," Gerald stated. "Not a question, a tactical observation." Holloway's response came measured, precise. The Harrison murders were never about what they seemed. 15 years of institutional procedure warned Gerald against engagement, professional distance, standard execution protocol, but something pulled at the edge of his tactical consciousness. "Explain." Gerald said. Holloway's fingers traced an invisible pattern on the table: military training, precise hand movements, communication technique. 3 generations eliminated, specific targets, not random violence. Gerald's military police background recognized the communication pattern. Controlled information release, strategic disclosure. The forensic evidence was constructed, Holloway interrupted, deliberately staged. Marginal notes from Dr. Chen's report surfaced in Gerald's memory: inconsistent wound trajectories. Professional-level execution. You're claiming the investigation was compromised, Gerald stated. Neutral, tactical. Holloway's eyes locked onto Gerald's. No emotion, pure calculation. Not compromised, he said. Orchestrated. A manila folder appeared. Between them, no markings, no identification. Sealed with a military-grade evidence tag. Holloway slid it across the table. Gerald's training warned against engagement, against breaking protocol. His hand moved. Almost imperceptibly, the folder opened. Classified military intelligence documents, partial personnel records, redacted sections, strategic information gaps. Harrison family patriarch, deep cover operations, classified missions. Something wasn't adding up. 2 hours until execution, a voice announced through the intercom. Holloway remained motionless, calculated, waiting. Gerald's secure phone vibrated. Jennifer. Be careful, her text read. No additional context needed. The interview room's institutional lighting flickered. Subtle reminder. Time was running out. Execution protocol demanded closure. Doubt demanded investigation. Holloway watched, waiting. Gerald Mercer was about to make a decision that would change everything. 1 hour before execution. Gerald Mercer's tactical network activated with military precision. No digital traces, no official communication channels. Old-school methodology. Jennifer first. Public defender, access to legal resources. I need full access to Harrison family classified records, Gerald stated. Her response came immediately. Impossible. Those files are sealed. Make it happen. Detective Malone next. Encrypted burner phone. Secure line. Something's wrong with the Holloway case, Gerald reported. Malone's silence spoke volumes. How deep? Deep enough to delay execution. Procedural resistance would be immediate. Institutional defense mechanisms would activate. Standard protocol for challenging an execution involved multiple layers of bureaucratic protection. Jennifer's research revealed first layer of complexity. Harrison family patriarch, military intelligence, classified deep cover operations. Multiple redacted personnel files, strategic information suppression. Warden Daniels would be first institutional barrier. Execution protocol demanded absolute compliance. Gerald compiled preliminary evidence. Inconsistent forensic reports. Deliberate evidence. Manipulation. Trace DNA profiles. Suspicious property records. Military-adjacent shell corporations. 45 minutes. Until execution. Secure communication with forensic specialist Dr. Elizabeth Chen. Her marginal notes had first suggested inconsistency. The wound trajectories, Gerald stated. Explain. Her response was clinical, calculated, not consistent with standard criminal behavior. Professional execution methodology, military training, precise elimination. Jennifer's legal network began. Mobilizing, preliminary injunction preparations, emergency stay of execution protocols, 30 minutes remaining. Institutional resistance would be immediate and overwhelming. Legal barriers, procedural challenges, bureaucratic defense mechanism, execution protocol enforcement. Gerald's military training identified the tactical approach. Minimize institutional exposure, develop multiple evidence vectors, create reasonable doubt, establish. Alternative narrative. Detective Malone's voice carried tactical urgency. You're challenging the entire judicial process. Negative, Gerald responded. Pursuing investigative protocol. The lie hung between them. Both understood the stakes. 20 minutes to execution. Warden Daniels would be preparing final execution protocols. Medical team on standby, witness room prepared. Gerald secured evidence, classified military documents, partial forensic reports, redacted personnel files, GPS coordinates, Shell Corporation records, Jennifer's legal preparation, emergency injunction, draft, preliminary. Motion for stay of execution, challenging forensic evidence methodology. 15 minutes remaining. The institutional machine would resist. Protect its narrative. Maintain established protocol. Gerald Mercer was about to challenge everything. Nathan Holloway waited. Execution clock ticking, institutional resistance preparing. The real battle was just beginning. The McAlester State Penitentiary. Hearing room existed as a monument to institutional procedure. Concrete walls, reinforced windows. A circular table where human fates were reduced to legal terminology and procedural protocol. 15 minutes before the scheduled execution. Gerald Mercer presented his evidence with military precision. Each document, each photograph, each forensic report positioned with calculated intention. Jennifer sat beside him, public defender, sister, strategic ally. Warden Daniels represented institutional resistance. Her posture spoke of decades of unquestioned authority. "Mr. Mercer," she began, "you're challenging an execution that has passed every legal review for 15 years. Forensic evidence spread across the table told a different story. Inconsistent ballistic reports, deliberately obscured DNA traces, suspicious. Property records, military-adjacent shell corporations. Detective Malone's testimony added another layer of complexity. Trace evidence never fully processed, redacted investigation files, strategic information gaps, Dr. Elizabeth Chen's forensic report became the critical pivot point. Wound trajectories suggest professional execution methodology, not standard criminal behavior. Professional execution. Nathan Holloway sat silent, watching, waiting. Jennifer's legal argument cut through institutional defenses, challenge to forensic methodology evidence of potential investigative misconduct, reasonable doubt provisions, constitutional challenge to execution protocol. The hearing room became a tactical battleground. Institutional defense mechanisms activated, challenging procedural integrity, protecting established narrative, maintaining execution protocol. 10 minutes to scheduled execution. Warden Daniels' response was immediate, clinical, calculated. The evidence has been reviewed multiple times by multiple agencies. Gerald's response was tactical, precise, negative. Evidence has been strategically suppressed. Malone shifted, uncomfortable, caught between institutional loyalty and emerging truth. The Harrison family case was more than a murder investigation. It was a carefully constructed narrative. A narrative about to unravel. 5 minutes to execution. Nathan Holloway remained silent, but his eyes told a different story. A story of calculated preparation. A story of strategic revelation. The institutional machine prepared to crush any challenge. Gerald Mercer prepared to challenge everything. Execution clock ticking, institutional resistance mounting. The real battle for truth was about to begin. Midnight approached. The execution chamber remained suspended in impossible tension. Gerald Mercer stood at the control panel, hand hovering above the switch that would end Nathan Holloway's life. Every institutional protocol demanded he complete the execution. Every tactical instinct told him to stop. 3 minutes to midnight. Jennifer burst through the door, legal documents clutched in her hand. Emergency stay of execution order, partially processed, not yet fully validated. Detective Malone arrived moments later. His presence carried the weight of 15 years of unresolved Investigation. Nathan Holloway sat strapped to the execution table. No fear, no emotion, pure calculation. The room contained three types of witnesses: official state representatives, victim family members, institutional observers. Each watched with different expectations. 2 minutes to midnight, Warden Daniels approached. "Gerald," her voice carried institutional authority. "Complete the execution," she ordered. Gerald's hand remained suspended. Tactical pause. The classified documents from the hearing room echoed in his mind: inconsistent forensic evidence, deliberate information suppression, military-adjacent shell corporations, trace evidence never fully processed. 1 minute to midnight. "Nathan," Holloway spoke. First words since the hearing. The Harrison murders were never about what they appeared to be. His voice carried a frequency, a tone, something that triggered Gerald's military police training. Precise, calculated, strategic communication. 30 seconds to midnight. Jennifer's emergency order remained partially processed. Legal limbo, Malone watched. Waiting. Warden Daniels' hand moved toward institutional override. 15 seconds. Gerald Mercer made his decision. His hand moved not to execute, but to stop everything. "Hold," he said. Single word. Military precision. The execution chamber froze. Institutional protocol shattered. The truth waited to be revealed. Midnight passed. Nathan Holloway would not die tonight. The real investigation was about to begin. 48 hours after the aborted execution, the truth began to emerge, like a tactical operation unfolding. The Harrison family murders were never about a simple homicide. Military intelligence documents, gradually declassified, revealed a complex narrative. The Harrison patriarch had been deep cover, critical national security operation, eliminated not by a criminal but by a specialized extraction team. Nathan Holloway was a witness, not a perpetrator. Gerald Mercer's office at McAlester State Penitentiary became a command center of investigation. Evidence boards, classified documents, strategic analysis. Detective Malone provided critical intelligence, classified military operations, covert, extraction protocols, deliberate evidence suppression, systemic cover-up mechanisms. Jennifer's legal research uncovered deeper layers. Multiple governmental agencies involved, systematic information manipulation, witness protection protocols violated. Dr. Elizabeth Chen's forensic analysis became the critical pivot point. The crime scene was a professionally executed elimination, not a murder, a strategic neutralization. Institutional resistance collapsed. The truth emerged in fragments. Harrison family, deep cover intelligence operatives, targeted elimination witnesses removed, systematic cover-up. Gerald Mercer's decision to halt the execution had triggered a complete re-evaluation of the entire case. Nathan Holloway was relocated, protected. Witness, critical intelligence asset. The execution chamber that had been a symbol of institutional finality became a starting point of revelation. Warden Daniels resigned. Her institutional authority shattered. Detective Malone's career transformed. From investigator to truth seeker, Jennifer's legal practice gained national recognition for challenging systemic judicial failures. Gerald Mercer was no longer just an executioner. He had become something else, a guardian of a truth that demanded to be revealed. The classified documents told a story of institutional betrayal, covert operations, systematic elimination, deliberate misinformation, institutional protection mechanisms. 1 month after the aborted execution, a congressional hearing convened. Nathan Holloway testified. The truth became undeniable. Some executions are about more than just ending a life. Some are about revealing a deeper truth. Gerald Mercer had learned that some protocols are meant to be challenged. Some truths are worth risking everything to reveal. The execution chamber remained silent, but the story was far from over.